Sounds perfect. Just
Okay.
try not to show any of that incriminating stuff on your computer screen, like anything, anything too bad. I know what card game was that you were playing?
Which hard game?
No, it was a card game I saw on your
Oh
screen, not
yeah.
solitaire, maybe spades or something.
Yeah, it's the Spider Solitaire. It's
Oh,
the version that we had on the old computers, Windows 95 or something,
wow.
or
Classic,
Windows.
huh?
Yeah, very classic. When sometime you work and the meeting is too long, you just need something to do to concentrate on the meeting, and just like you play cards and you keep listening to the guy, so you you have the energy to keep following.
Yeah, you need that something going in the background that your brain could be semi-occupied with just to stay active, like
Exactly.
a fidget spinner, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It can be, yeah.
Can be anything.
Mm.
Cool. So, Besson, let's see, where to start? I mean, tell us, where are you from?
Okay. So I am Tunisian. I was born in Tunisia in 1993, and I raised in Tunisia until my 18. And after I graduated from high school, I moved to Paris to start my studies of law. So I'm a lawyer. And yeah, and in France I had the opportunity to study two programs at the same time. It's a kind of double degree program. So I studied the French and Spanish law at the same time. So that's why after 2 years in Paris, I moved to Barcelona to the. So I was in Paris. Sorry, I was in Université Panthéon Assas, which is one of the most famous law universities in France. And then I moved to Universidad Autónoma de Barcelona, which is a big campus, and they have a law school, and I studied at the law school of this university. Yeah,
So um, you studied Spanish law and French law.
yeah.
How different are they? Was the biggest challenge that they were in a different language? Like, I don't even know what that would begin. Like, I mean, when I met you, I mean, your Spanish was really good, so it's close enough to French,
Thanks.
and you speak Arabic as well.
Yeah, in
Is there?
Tunisia, we have two mother tongues. Well, it depends of the region, but especially when you because I was born in the capital in Tunis, and almost everybody in the capital speak French and Arabic as a mother tongue. So yeah, I had it just by from my family. Then I learned at the high school English and Spanish. But the high school level is very academic level when you learn a language. Um, but it was after moving to Spain that I improved both. I have to say, I improved my Spanish, of course, and my English because just before living in Spain, I was always in a country in which they speak my mother tongue. You know, so in Tunisia or in France, I had no effort to do to speak with people, so I never had to learn English. But when I moved to Spain, I met a lot of international students, and not all of them were speaking Spanish, so I had to improve my English, and that's how I did it by making friends. But after I had the opportunity to live in English speaking countries, and I had the opportunity to improve my English as well.
Right. You worked with the UN in New
Mm.
York representing Spain. Can you
Yeah.
explain that? How did you represent Spain? How did you come to do that as somebody from Tunisia?
That's funny. That's a funny adventure because in Spain, so as I told you, I went to study Spanish law for during 2 years, But in fact, I spent more time in Spain because when I graduated from the University of Barcelona, I had the choice because I had both degrees, one degree in France and one degree in Spain. So for my master's, I was able to study in any of the two countries, and I found a program in diplomacy and international organizations that is created by a partnership between universities of Barcelona and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Spain. So I did this master, and to graduate from this master, you need to do an internship experience, and so that's why I benefited from a partnership that this master has with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Spain, and I applied for an internship at the permanent representation of Spain to the UN, and yeah, I asked them, I'm not Spanish, is it okay for you guys? They said, bienvenido, of course. So yeah.
Así es la vida in Spain, no? Así es la vida. Ah, da igual.
Well, no, it's not that igual. When you know the UN culture, for me it was very strange before going to New York. When once I was there, I met a lot of interns that were working for missions, representations, permanent representation that were not from their own country. For example, there is a lot of students from Columbia universities that want to have a UN experience, and they just apply to small countries that are that have a representation in New York, but they don't have so many budget, and they cannot pay like the salary and the apartment and all the things for their own diplomats, like especially the small island countries like Vanuatu, like Tuvalu, all these Solomon Islands. So for them, it's a good thing because they have a more human resource that is local, coming from New York, and they offer the opportunity to a student to get a UN experience. So if some people are listening to us and they have this ambition, I really encourage them to do that. Just to send an email to you have 193 countries at the UN, so you have a lot of chances. Just send 193 applications, spontaneous applications, and I think you will have some answers, and they will be very happy to host you for an internship.
Wow. Okay. So you could just, I mean, spam all the countries of the world and just say, hey, I would like to represent you for the United Nations as an intern. And that's a legitimate way to get that kind of internship, that kind of experience where you're working for the UN and representing a country. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
What do they usually ask of you to do then? What is part of the job of representing a country in that capacity?
Okay. Yeah, it's just to complete my answer to the previous question. The UN considers that every state has the sovereignty to decide who is representing him. So it can be someone from his country or anybody else, because they are free to decide who represent them to the UN, and that's why I told you it's something very common. So yeah, the job was in fact helping the diplomats, the Spanish diplomats that were based in New York to represent the Spanish government. Yeah, my job was basically to attend to meetings, understand what was happening during the meetings, what was negotiated during those meetings, and report that to the capital, to Spain. And yeah, and I had to do diplomatic reports just to tell them, oh, this country would like to introduce a resolution on this topic, and he has the support of I don't know, 10 countries, but 20 other countries are opposed to this project of a resolution. hey guys in Madrid, what should we do? Basically that's the job, even for a diplomat, in fact, because when you are at the UN, even if yourself physically you are present there, you're not representing yourself, you're representing the government of Spain in this case, or the government of the United States or Tunisia or anything. You're not the one allowed to decide. So you just have to make a report and send it and tell them, okay, just keep me posted. What should we vote? Support, oppose, and yeah. And but it was interesting, and I have to say I'm grateful to the Spanish delegation in New York, because they trusted me. They gave me basic work at the beginning, but as I was very motivated, they pushed me to go further, and even sometimes I was doing the job as a diplomat. Uh, it was at the end of the internship, I have to say, but I was representing Spain in some meetings. Sometimes they allowed me to take the floor, to say, which is a big moment, a very stressful moment. I don't have to mess up. I don't want to create any conflict with anyone. But I learned a lot, and I'm grateful to them.
Yeah, I bet. But that was a really fun experience.
Yeah.
I mean, it's that capacity of, well, that potency of a building. It's like, okay, you have representatives of so many different countries here. That in itself, just you feel that, kind of greatness, like that collaboration between the world is happening right now. That's
Yeah.
pretty awesome. But on the lighter side of things, whenever you like sit down in that Spain chair, or you're representing whatever country, do you kind of like emotionally put on that hat or that face, figuratively, of like that country? It's like, all right, if you're a really straight, like German style person, but somehow you got the job to represent Spain, do you start loosening up, loosen your tie, maybe take a couple chupitos, boom, boom? It's like, all right, loosen up.
Well,
Do you ever like joke about that with the other people that, are representing countries, of like embracing stereotypes, I guess?
yeah, it's the diplomatic word is a very strict, is very strict on this aspect, especially on formal meetings. So you don't really see stereotypes about countries in the formal meeting, but then maybe when you meet the diplomats out of the meeting, because we are, at the end, we are colleagues, we see each other every day, and like you can make some friends between them, and like go party with them, take drinks, and even some of them invited me for dinner at their house. They introduced me to their families. And that's those, in those moments you can see that, yeah, from one culture to another you see some differences. But as you say, like when you go to this meeting, you take the hat. Hey, I'm the guy representing Spain, so I'm here to like just to say the position, the diplomatic position of the country I'm representing. But I cannot be in the meeting with chupitos or or sangria or anything. We're not at the Simpsons.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know this episode of the Simpsons, in which, like, there is many episodes, in fact, of the Simpsons in which they show the UN, and yeah, in this episode you see many cliches. um, but sometimes you feel the moment, maybe the importance of the moment. I remember at that time, we were at the top of the humanitarian crisis in Syria, and Spain was a part of the Security Council. And I remember sometimes we were negotiating hours and hours to ask the Russians to let us have a humanitarian corridor, to let the humanitarian NGOs access to the population, the civil population, and give them food, give them medical assistance, all these kind of things. And I think, yeah, it wasn't always a success. We had some victories, but the humanitarian situation was that bad that I don't consider that as a success, because that's politics at the end. the Russian delegation had the interest to defend, and they were different to the Spanish delegation. But you I think when you are in this kind of meetings, you have topics that are bigger than you, and you don't think about those jokes.
Yeah, definitely. You have
But
a job to do, and there's a lot that's waiting for you to execute and dependent upon,
yeah,
whatever results you bring back.
exactly.
But wow, can you talk more about that objective you had to negotiate a corridor? What was that? A corridor for
A humanitarian corridor. So a corridor in a country in a country where armed conflict is happening. It's a kind of territory that we agree that we will have no military operations from any side, to make sure that the humanitarian delegation, like mainly the Red Cross, the International Committee of the Red Cross, can access to the villages where we know that the civil population is that was not able to escape is living, so to allow them to bring assistance. And so it's very hard, because at that moment it was the the top of the conflict. We know now that the Syrian regime is still in power, and it was at that moment that the events were turning in their favor, and they didn't want to stop the military operations, because they needed to get advantage in to the opposition, and also to ISIS, in front of ISIS. So I know they have from their point of view, they have legitimate interest to do that, and for them, they think this civil population, even if they are suffering, the interest of our nation is bigger than them. I don't agree with them, but that's how they were thinking. And for them, when we're talking about humanitarian corridor, it wasn't part of their priorities. So we had some victories at some point. We achieved to get this humanitarian corridor, but we lost a lot of time. And I think when you lose time in this kind of situation, you lose lives as well. So that's the UN as well. You think that it's great, and that's where you make peace. But in fact, at the end, that's the sovereignty of every state, and the sovereignty of every state makes that the UN is not able to impose peace. And you need to go through negotiation, mediation, to get an achievement.
Right.
So yeah.
And is that multilateral diplomacy? Like, what does that term mean?
Exactly. So yeah, while we were preparing this podcast, I told you a lot about multilateral diplomacy.
It's a very nice word. It seems to really have some profound, significance.
Yeah, I agree. So just to explain quickly, so diplomacy can have diverse dimensions. The most basic diplomacy is bilateral diplomacy. Like, for example, you are the ambassador of the United States. I am the Tunisian government. So your work as an ambassador of the United States in Tunisia is to focus on the bilateral relationship between our both countries. And your only work is to make sure that the interests of the United States in Tunisia are protected, and to make sure that the Tunisians are happy about this relationship. And if you figure out that there is something that is not accepted by the Tunisian, to make sure that people in Washington know that and take the decision in function of that. So sometimes the government of the US will tell you, okay, you have to fix that. Or sometimes they will tell you, they're not happy, not our problem. For us, the interest of the US is bigger than their satisfaction. It's basic diplomacy, and the job of the Tunisian ambassador in DC is the same. Make sure to protect the interests of Tunisia in the United States. So this is basic diplomacy, bilateral diplomacy. But then you have other dimensions. You have regional.
Oh, sorry. Just
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt. You're saying bilateral?
Bilateral, which means it's only two countries.
Two.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
Two. You have as well regional diplomacy. I will give you an example. You know that Canada, US, and Mexico have a free trade agreement, the North American Free Trade Agreement, I think.
Oh yeah, NAFTA.
NAFTA, exactly. Thank you. So because I know the word in French, it's ALENA. Accord de
Yeah,
libre.
I only know the acronym, so I was like, wait, yeah.
NAFTA, exactly. So regional diplomacy, in this case, for example, it's about 3 countries, and they have to make agreements to improve the trade between the 3 countries. And the objective is that if you have free trade between the 3 countries, every company from any of those 3 countries have access to a bigger market. So the NAFTA market, which is huge, because if you take the population of Canada, the US, and the Mexico, you're almost 500 million of population, you know. And you have the same thing in the European Union. It's 27 countries that agree to put some power in common, some governance in common, in order to have a bigger European market and to improve trade and then development to for those countries. So this is regional diplomacy, and you do it between neighbors, and most of the time it's only for economic purposes. It can have some exceptions. For example, you have the NATO, which is for military purposes. It's the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, and it's to make sure that there is military cooperation between European countries and countries and the US and Canada. And then you have multilateral diplomacy. Multilateral diplomacy, it's the idea that there is issues that have an international relevance. It's not only when there is, for example, armed conflict that can create a genocide, or where you can have war crimes. It's not about the country A and the country B that are in an armed conflict, but it's about the international community, because we are humans and we think that human rights have to be protected, humanitarian rights have to be defended, and it's all the international community that has something to say to defend those values. And then we talk about those issues at the global level. So as it doesn't matter if you are a country from Asia, from South America, from Africa, from Europe. We all have to find a solution, and we all have to bring the 2 parts of this conflict to talk about it and to find a way to make peace. That's the idea of multilateral diplomacy. It first appeared as an organization after the First World War in 1919. We had the League of Nations that was based in Geneva. But the problem of the League of Nations is that it was created by the winners of the war. So basically the US, UK, France, but the losers had much less power in this organization, and mainly Germany. And those countries felt that this organization was not balanced and was just serving the interest of the winners of the war. And that's why after the crisis of 1929, you know, the big economic crisis, Germany was suffering poverty, and they had a guy called Adolf Hitler that I think you heard about him.
Yeah, yeah. Never
That
forget.
was using the suffering of this poverty to, of course, to be xenophobic and anti-Semitic, of course, but was also criticizing the outcome of the League of Nations, and was telling about people that we were that Germany was humiliated by this organization and the treaties that created this organization, and decided to uh, progressively be out of this organization. And that's why they did their project in by their side, and stage by little by little we arrived to the Second World War. And that's the big fail for multilateral diplomacy, because uh, it wasn't a balanced organization, and then dialogue between nations was impossible. And when nations stop to talk, well, they fight, and that's how we have a huge world war as we had in between 39 and 45. That's why, knowing all this background, the countries after the Second World War decided to create the United Nations organization that was actually founded by the Treaty of San Francisco. You are in San Diego, it's California, so you're not that far. And actually, if you visit San Francisco, you have the United Nations Plaza, and on this plaza you have a federal building of the US. And I think I'm not sure about it, but that's what people told me in San Francisco, but haven't checked yet. So fact checking people in the comment, you can tell us. But in this building, that's where they negotiated the charter of the United Nations. And the charter is kind of the constitution of the United Nations. So the United Nations is the place nowadays where multilateral diplomacy is alive, because it's the place, I think it's one of the only organizations in the world where all the countries present on earth are represented, which makes well, like, there is some exceptions to what I'm saying, but let's say 193 is almost all the countries around the world. And uh, that's where countries meet when there is issues that have international relevance. So of course I told you about the armed conflicts, but there is other issues, like for example, human rights. So many people knows about the Universal Declaration on the human rights that was negotiated in Paris, actually. And the same, if you go to Trocadero in Paris, you have the Human Rights Plaza. It's because that's the building where it was negotiated, and it was negotiated by Eleanor Roosevelt, that the wife of the President Roosevelt, that was the first woman representing the US as an ambassador to the UN. So she was the one who had the leadership and negotiated that, and had and made it, actually. And I have to recall that at that moment it was we had the Soviet Union, and we were close to the beginning of the Cold War. And even beside that, she made it. And so a very good achievement. But yeah, you have in the UN multilateral diplomacy for peace, so military peace, of course, human rights, um, sustainable development, that we can talk about it, but the UN also works about ending the poverty, and fight against the climate change. So find solutions so to stop the effects of climate change. So that's the four big issues at the UN that all the countries work about all together, and they have objectives. And it's been now more than 70 years that it exists. The work is not perfect, but I think it's the less worse we can have nowadays. I'm
So
sorry
70,
for this pitch.
70 years ago, you're saying it started, and the
A
goals.
bit more, a bit more. It was approved in 45, so it's like 76 years ago or something like that.
Yes. Okay. So the goals, I'm sure, change. You know, every time they meet, they would check on them. You know,
Mm.
they need to be changed or altered, or how are you guys doing with meeting these goals and checking in? How have they changed, and where are they at now? You mentioned sustainability and poverty. What are those goals? Do you know?
Yeah. So in 2015, the UN approved the 2030 agenda on sustainable development goals. There are 17. I don't know if you can show them on the screen for your for the audience, but you can go just on Google, put UN SDGs 2030 agenda, and you will have the 17 goals. I don't have them by memory, but the main of them is eradicate extreme poverty, zero hunger, give access to education to all children, um, have sustainable cities, have a sustainable industry, limit the impacts of climate change, um, give access to electricity to all population around the world. Um, so as you can see, like there are 17 goals, and it's not useful that I give you all of them, and I have to admit that I don't know them by memory, but you can go
Yeah.
on internet and check them. But the main idea is that we have to bring all the conditions that we need to end poverty anywhere on the world, but by doing it in a sustainable way. So by respecting the environment and maybe not using the same development model as we had in the developed countries, like in Europe or US, because like we have especially in the 19th century, those countries polluted a lot. And the idea is to say to the developing countries that you guys can make development, can end poverty without using the same model, the same trajectory, by respecting the environment. And the UN is here for that, and the developed countries are here to support you in choosing this model of new development. So it was approved by the UN, so by all the countries, and many countries committed on that. The developing countries committed on those objectives, and the developed countries committed on funding those objectives. And yeah, I know COVID that was not a part of the plan, but the objective is to make it by 2030.
Yeah, that's pretty lofty. And COVID, I'm sure, threw a big curveball in there.
Mm.
But those you said, and I just looked them up as you were talking. There is no poverty is number one, and then
Mm.
number two
No
is
extreme poverty. No extreme poverty. Yeah.
and then no hunger.
Yeah.
It's like these are really lofty, and 2030 is pretty close now.
Yeah.
Uh, is that are we kind of on pace, or like how could we achieve that? Is that possible? What do you think it's actually like
Well,
attainable?
so personally, I would say it's hard. But that's the same thing. If I was speaking in the name of Spain, I would tell you we have those policies to make it happen, and we will make it happen. But as Becem, I would tell you it's not easy. But I like the idea to have, even for my personal life, so not only on the UN, but I like the idea of to have the high ambition and do your best to make it happen, than reducing the ambitions from the moment zero, and then eliminating any possibility that the best project can happen. And I think that's what the decision makers at the UN choose to do. They're not enjoying. They are not. They know that they will still have challenges in 2030. But that's what we have to make. That's what we need to have as an objective. And this 2030 agenda is not only a paper, it's like the structure of the policy of the UN currently. And now, for example, if any country comes to the UN or to the World Bank asking for help, sometime we can tell him, well, you're asking, for example, $100 million to fund this project of, I don't know, sanitation or industry in your country. But this project doesn't respect the objective, I don't know, number 13, that is protect the climate, protect the earth against climate change. Or maybe this hospital you're making in your countries is only for male people and not for female people. So you're not respecting the gender equality. So, you know, by time, those countries have to integrate those objectives in their policies if they want to get assistance. You know, and it's the same thing for people that give money for developing for development projects. They always, like, I don't know, US or China or Japan, they need to respect those objectives if they want to help other developing countries through the UN or their agencies. So this is itself, maybe it's something we can see as a concrete change, but in the methodology of work of the UN and their agencies, like UNICEF or UNDP or UN Women, it's important because they have to follow this methodology. And we see we have to keep monitoring the implementation of this agenda and do our best to make it happen.
Yeah, I mean, like you were talking about multilateral diplomacy earlier, that's just so important to achieve those goals. We need everybody to pitch in to do their
Exactly.
part. So I imagine the US and, you know, there are other countries, China, India, some of the biggest consumers, producers, and the big shakers that we really need to be on board. You know, the US, you know, with Trump, we were out of the Paris Agreement,
Yeah.
and then we came back in. What do you see changing, you know, with this new presidency, this whole new, the next 4 years at least?
The first thing we can notice with this new administration is the new language about multilateral diplomacy. Because for Donald Trump, multilateral diplomacy was not a tool, was not an objective at all. It was unilateral. That's another word. That it was unilateral diplomacy, which means that me, and deal with it. So when he says America first, it wasn't only something for his people in the Republican Party. It was a way to say the problems in the world don't matter for me. What matters are the US interest, and I will only help you guys if it's in our interest. I have to say that in diplomacy, we know that many countries are like that, but they don't say it out loud. Donald Trump was the only one saying that out loud because, well, it's Donald Trump. I'm not going to comment about the US politics.
But I'm asking you to.
Well, we can talk about it, but if we talk about diplomacy, I'm not going to criticize him. He was elected by the US people.
And he actually has achieved a whole lot. A lot of things that he said he would do, he actually did. And if you list that out, it's like way more than most presidents ever have listed things they'll do, and then they actually do it. I mean, the consequences are another significant topic to talk about. But yeah, I mean, he's he's been unique for sure, and he had some good things, but he had a whole lot of things that set us back as a planet, I think.
Yeah, yeah. So exactly. So um, he's a more a businessman than a politician. So when you do business, it's easy to commit on something, and then you do it because that's your way of thinking. Diplomacy or politics are more complex than business, and that's why it wasn't good for multilateral diplomacy to deal with Donald Trump, because we want the UN or any other instrument of multilateral diplomacy was not part of his priorities. So that's the first change we can notice with Joe Biden, because he directly said that he would sign again the Paris Agreement. Actually, he was very involved as a vice president in the negotiations of this agreement. Many people remember John Kerry or Barack Obama on this agreement because they were the people in front. But of course, they were only representing a government, as I said, for Spain. And we know that Joe Biden was very involved in the negotiation of this agreement already at that time. But as well, he said that he sent a direct message to other countries around the world, saying there is so many issues that we can fix together, and we are open again for dialogue, and let's meet again, let's discuss again, and let's face those issues together again, which is logic, which is the traditional position of the US for many years, even with the George Bush during the war of Iraq of 2003, sorry, he tried to get the authorization of the UN to go to Iraq, but France said no, and they used their veto. And after he did what he wanted to do, but he first tried to get the authorization from the Security Council. He failed, and at the end, he did what he wanted to do. But at least he respected this tradition of respecting the UN as an organization and the spirit of mutual diplomacy. At first, but then he did something else. But yeah, so that's the first change, I think. But like as I told you, I know that Joe Biden only focuses on the interest of the US and the US citizens, and I have no problem with that because every country does that. But at least the speech is respectful to mutual diplomacy and is open to dialogue, which is a lot.
Mm. Yeah. So what other big changes have already happened, or do you expect to happen? I mean, we rejoined the Paris Agreement.
I expect him as well to rejoin the World Health Organization, because the US left the World Health Organization during the Trump administration. I don't know if
Iran deal.
Yeah, the Iran deal. It was a deal negotiated by the Obama administration, and was part of this administration. So let's see. The doubt I have is that now we had a lot of moves during the Trump administration from the US and from Iran. So it's not it's not as easy as the Paris Agreement, because Iran feels offended by the US after the strike that Trump organized against the General Soleimani. I don't know if you heard about it.
No, tell me.
It was 1 year ago. So it's one of the top generals of Iran. He was in Iraq, and Trump ordered a strike against a military basis of Iran in Iraq, and this top general was killed. And this is something that had a huge impact on Iran. And so and we had other military issues after this strike. A drone of the U.S. Army was shooted by Iran. They shooted a plane of Ukraine because they thought that this plane was a rocket, but it was a mistake. So too many things happened to come back to this situation as nothing, as nothing happened. So we need now to see what steps will do Joe Biden toward Iran and what Iran will accept to do toward the US. And we see if there is mutual willing to come back to the Iran deal.
You see complex. Joe Biden talk, right? Like you see him talk and then he loses his train of thought. It's hard for him to stay to one concept, even to do one whole sentence and then move to another sentence seems really hard for him. How much do you think that would impact those negotiations? Does he have any support there that could be like, all right, in all honesty, talk to me. Don't talk to the president. Well, like I'll be the guy.
I don't want to disappoint you, but the real negotiations are made by diplomats. When you see Joe Biden talking to a president, or when you see high-level leaders on TV, it's just to materialize this agreement or materialize this diplomatic thing. But all those negotiations is made by Iranian diplomats, European diplomats, and US diplomats. They meet all together.
Not a disappointment at all. That's great.
And yeah, so Joe Biden will come to just be there for the picture, but what he will really do is to give the instructions to the US diplomats, and they will tell them, he will tell them, make a deal or don't do the deal, or get this from them, or if they ask this, only give them this, So he will give the instruction, because diplomats, as I told you, they cannot decide by themselves. They need to get the approval from the administration, and the one who has the legitimacy to decide is Joe Biden, is the House of Representatives, is the Senate, because they were elected by the citizens of the United States. So even if Joe Biden meets with Iranians, it will be for 1 hour or something, just to make the deal happen. But his job is to give the instructions, to give the line, So and also I have to say that Joe Biden is known to be a very good negotiator. I don't know if you remember the Obamacare that was approved at the Congress. It was approved in a moment in which Obama didn't have the majority at the Congress. So Joe Biden had to negotiate with the Republicans, congressmen and congresswomen, to convince them to support the Obamacare bill, and he made it. Sorry, because the vice president of the United States is as well the president of Senate, so he was directly in contact with those senators, and so he has very good negotiation skills. So I think if he wants, he can make a good job on diplomacy, but I have doubts about the Iran deal. There is too much things happened during those 4 years to make sure that this deal will come back. I don't know.
Why is the Iran deal so important to Americans, I guess more specifically, because that's where most of the people that would be listening to this are, and we're all pretty oblivious, I guess, because we're just thrown so many different deals, concepts, news stories. People have a very short attention span and just depth of comprehension. Could you break that down for us simply?
Yeah. So the situation is both. It's about the regional influence that Iran has on some countries of the Middle East, and it's also ideologic. First, the ideology is because the Iranian regime is an Islamic republic, and those Iranian Islamists, let's say, uh, build their regime about the opposition to the Western countries. And they said to their activists, to their people, that Europe and the US are the devil on earth, and like they have to fight against them and everything. This is only speech, you know. It's only politicians from Iran. Um, I know a lot of Iranians, they're not like that. And actually, one of the biggest community of Iranians abroad is in California. And there is a lot of Iranians in Los Angeles. And they are, most of them are binationals. They love Iran, they love the US, and like they live peacefully with the US people. So this is fake. But for the US, this is something important. When your speech, your political speech, is to say that we are the devil, and we are like any Muslim on the world has to fight against the US. This is not something acceptable for the US. And I'm here like speaking like that just to make it simple. There is a lot of um, subtleties on this. But yeah, I don't know if you remember, but the U.S. embassy in Tehran, in Iran, was assaulted by activists of the Islamic Republic. And actually now there is no embassy of the U.S. in Iran, because and there is no embassy of Iran in Washington D.C. neither. So yeah, there is hay un pasado, como like they say in Spanish. There is a past, you know, a huge past. But
A lot of history, right? A lot
there are
of
a lot of
history.
history in this
Yeah.
bilateral relationship, actually. But the US um, knows the influence that has Iran on Middle Eastern countries, especially on the Shiites,
The
Muslim countries.
Shiites.
Sorry,
The Shiites.
exactly, the Shiites. Yeah, thank you. So as you may know, in Islam you have two main traditions. You have the Sunnites traditions and the Shia traditions. And um, Iran has a lot of influence on the Shias Muslims, and they are in many countries around the Middle East. And basically, Iran, if they come back to if they accept this deal, and they come back to a peaceful relationship with the Western countries, they will use this influence to pacify the Middle East, and to pacify the relationships between Middle East and Western countries. So that's the interest of US. And as well, you know that before the Islamic Republic, the US was one of the big partners, economic partners of Iran, because Iran is a very rich country. They have oil and gas. So there is actually one economist that did a study about that, and tried to evaluate how much money the US was losing because of this conflict with Iran. And I think they lose something like 50 billion per year, $50 billion per year for this, because of the situation of Iran, you know. So the US would win this pacification with a part of the Middle East, and some economic exchange. And Iran would win that the sanctions, because there is some economic sanctions against Iran imposed by the US and European countries. Iran would win that those sanctions would disappear, so they would be allowed to make trade with the European countries and US companies. So they will get more money, then more jobs, and less poverty.
All right, wait. So let's recap.
Yeah.
So the Iran, their president or their politicians, they say, kind of the U.S. is the devil, and we need to stop them. We need to attack them, bring them
Fight against
down.
them.
And then the U.S. pretty much doesn't really not care too much, but normally they wouldn't be too involved. But then they can't just stand. They can't let this aggression stand, right? They have
Yeah.
to say, hey, don't talk bad about us, don't threaten us.
Yeah, it's
We're
very,
like,
very summarizing. Very
yeah,
summarizing. There is
yeah,
a
very
lot of
similar. I
implications.
need some dolls,
Yeah. Yeah.
But so then well
And
then
and
I'm not sure
also
what
Iran threatens the safety of Israel as well. That is a big ally of the US in the Middle East.
okay.
Um, so they have this hope that if they make this deal with Iran, Israel would be safer.
Yeah, so the US wants to make this deal, which would be to like be friends again instead of they're like, yeah, happy. So they want to
Yeah.
do that so that Israel would be, stronger or more peaceful over there, which is part of US interest. But then also, if they're friends with Iran, if they're good with Iran, then they have a lot more influence around the whole Middle East because Iran is like a central power there. And then you said something about the sanctions could be lifted.
Yeah.
That's about where I had to recap and bring it back
Okay.
before I get lost.
I'm sorry if I'm not simple enough, but
No, you're doing fine. It's just it's hard. It's hard.
yeah,
Just
yeah, it's complex, and feel free to just go through it. You have a lot of videos on YouTube or a lot of papers on the internet that explain you more or less and do a better recap than me. But let's say that when US thinks that one country is hostile to them, they try to make pressure on the regime of this country to put him in a difficult situation, so they lose the power in the country and they are replaced by other friendly politics within this country. So one of the measures that US use is embargo or economic sanctions. But Iran is not the only country suffering from that. Russia, for example, suffered for many years and still suffers partly of economic sanctions. Cuba, which is officially communist, suffered a lot of economic sanctions until actually the Obama administration decided to make a move to Cuba. North Korea is under embargo as well. And those sanctions are, because the US is a country that is powerful, are imposed to any person around the world. And basically, this sanction means if you make business with Iran, you're not allowed to make business in the US. Basically.
sounds very childish.
Well, yeah, but
If you play with her, you can't play with us.
exactly.
Like, dang, all right, that's hurtful stuff. I'm sure that doesn't really bode well for all the giant egos that are up at the biggest chairs.
Yeah, but it's a way to make pressure, and on some countries it works, and some others not. On Iran, it makes them it makes them some troubles, but as they have a lot of natural resources like oil and gas, they survived until now with those sanctions. They have difficulties, they have poor people and everything, but they survived. But with other countries, especially during the Cold War, some countries got the internal opposition doing an insurrection, and they organized a coup, and they kicked out this leader that messed up with the US. You know. And it worked. So that's why the US keep using this tool of the economic sanctions. But but it's something huge, because even a country, a company that has nothing to see with Iran or US, if they make business with Iran, they lose their market in the US. And of course, the market of the US is much bigger than the market in Iran. So, for example, a French company in France will decide to stop business with Iran because they want to protect their business in the US. And this puts Iran in difficulty. So one of the one of the benefits for Iran to accept this deal is to lift those sanctions, so they can start to make business with all the planet. And when you make business with more partners, well, you make more money, and then you have more employment in your country, and people are less poor. So this is very important for them.
Yeah, I do want to say that out of all of the Iranians I've met, really, whether in Europe or the United States, they always point out after, talking to them, they're really good people, really fun to talk to, really insightful, seem very genuine and similar to Americans. Just like, wait, is that the country that we're like headbutting against that are anti-US? And they say, yeah, that's just the government. The government has that appeal, that front of saying how much they hate the US, but all of the population, like the very large majority, they say are opposed to the government, and they say that we don't agree with the government policies.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and also one issue that I haven't told about, but it's important. This regime in Iran is suspected to develop a nuclear bomb, and many countries are concerned about this issue, especially Israel, that is a big ally to the US. So one of the benefits as well for the US and Europe is that if if Iran accepts this deal, they commit to stop developing this nuclear bomb. So that's why they would use their influence to pacify the Middle East, and they will reduce the threat of any nuclear attack.
All right, and there was something you said that was interesting back about Biden negotiating. It's actually the diplomats that are in the room talking. Tell me more about the life of a diplomat. It seems pretty glamorous, pretty fun. What are the biggest pros and cons, I guess?
Okay.
What's the life like?
Well, I have to say that there is as much pros that cons. It's very good to be a diplomat when you are young, because you don't have a family, you don't have kids. But when you have a wife and kids, it starts to be tricky, because a diplomat is always on the move. So if he's not based abroad, even when he's working for the government from the capital, he has a lot of missions. So which is good, because you see a lot of countries, you meet a lot of different cultures, but it means that you're out of home for very frequently, and you're not there for your kids or your wife. And you say that it's glamorous. Yeah, it can be. There is good events like receptions, for example. The receptions that especially in a city like New York, because you have so much permanent representations of so much countries, that almost every week you have at least one country that is organizing something, because it's the national day for him. So like if you don't come, it means that you're not a friend with this country. So at least you have to go there 5 minutes to take a beer to see, like, okay, like to say everything is okay for us with your country, that we have no issue. But yeah, so it happened for me on some nights to have to attend to 3 receptions on the same night, because I was invited, and to not decline the invitation, I've been there, even if it was Wednesday and I had a meeting the next day at 8 a.m. you know.
All right,
But
well, let's think if you don't have a meeting the next morning, what's the best country's reception to attend? Like, if you got to hit three of them because you got invited to three and you got to go to all, which one would you put last? You know, like save the best for last. Was there anyone that was well known around? It's like, hey, that one's gonna be good.
um, well, I would say the first that impacted me, it wasn't for a reception, but it was for a lunch. It was Italy, the permanent representation of Italy, because when you have a meeting with Italians at their embassy, you eat very well.
And they won't be late either, right? For
No,
their own.
exactly, and they are very nice. They give you good Italian wine, good prosciutto, good
The
Italian
best.
cheese. That's great. And I have to say, when you go as a Spanish diplomat to Italian embassy, you are a European diplomat, so you are friends. Myself in Tunisia, we have a lot of Italians because it's very close, Italy and Tunisia. So like that's great. You go to see them, they receive you very well. I remember also once Thailand organized a reception, and the funny thing is that the ambassador of Thailand is himself a guitarist. So he plays guitar, and
Oh, okay.
and so that night he did, of course, the diplomatic stuff, like salute everyone, speak with everyone and everything, and at the end he played during the concert with the band that was playing for the reception, and it was just amazing, so yeah, so those are the receptions that I remember. There was as well Egypt that in New York organized a big fiesta, a big party, and almost everyone was invited. And like it was open bar, they offered a lot of mojitos, chupitos to everyone. But I cannot tell you that's something from Egypt. It's just because that ambassador of Egypt did it this way, and he knows how to receive people. There is also some reception because you know that at the UN you have goodwill ambassadors, and there are Hollywood star movies that really care about one cause, and they stand with the UN to help the UN to speak about one issue, or to do some to raise some funds to finance this cause. And those reception can be nice. Sometimes you can see the wife of George Clooney. What's her name? Amal Clooney. She's an international lawyer, and she really cares about human rights. And at any moment when you need to defend any human right cause, if you contact her as the UN or as the ambassador of a country representation to the UN, she's here. She's very open. Sometimes just by asking her to come to a reception, you make your reception as a success, and you make people talking about this cause, or give donations to fund this cause because she's there. And so yeah, you have some receptions that are like that. There was a reception with Leonardo DiCaprio. Didn't attend that time. I had other receptions, but yeah, I regret. There was a Stevie Wonder that came once. You have those kind of glamorous moments, but you have to use it to serve your cause, of course. It's not you don't organize a reception just to see Stevie Wonder at your embassy,
He shows up and he's like, all right, what's the cause? And you're like, here's a piano. He's like, oh God, here we go again.
Everybody, there's somebody.
Well, wait, so this is interesting because it's like, so two different sides of philanthropy, possibly, where you have like one reception, let's just say Italy, and they want to have a cause be more successful, they would extend an invitation to a celebrity to attend in favor of this cause. Is that
Yeah,
right?
but it's just some examples. Not all the receptions have stars of famous people.
And
Um,
do all receptions have a cause?
no,
Like,
it can be something very simple because it's the national day of your country, and so you invite everyone to your embassy just to raise the awareness of about your country, about the culture of the country, just for that, you know.
so do those countries, do they really take advantage of those silly national days like National Crepe Day? And then France goes crazy. Yeah, it's Crepe Day, don't you know?
No, every country has only one national day.
Okay.
So even if you have a lot of big moments in your country, you need to choose one, you know,
Uh,
just to be taken as a serious country. You know, for example, for the US, it's 4th of July. Um, for Tunisia, it's March 20 is Independence Day. For France, it's July 14 because it's the day of revolution in France, you know. So if you do something as the national day, everyone attends because they want to show that they're friendly with our country, you know. But
mm.
you cannot do that every week, you know. You can only do that once a year. But also you can do receptions, for example, at the UN. There is some committees in which your country needs to be elected to attend to this committee, you know. So you
Committee.
yeah, like for example, the Human Rights Council in Geneva, you need to be elected to have a chair at the Human Rights Council. So as any election, you need to do campaign, and when you do campaign at the UN, you don't do rallies like Trump or Biden, but you do receptions. You know, you invite many countries to your embassy, and it's the opportunity to meet with them and to check if they're going to vote for you or not, and to also, if they have some doubts, to talk about your project, why you want to be elected, what ambition do you have with this mandate, all this kind of stuff. So it can be that, or for example, if you have uh, an important issue in your country you want to sensitize about, you can do a reception at your embassy for that. And if you have a lack of awareness and you make it you're able to invite any star from your country, then you invite those people. I remember that Spain once invited Rafael Nadal to their embassy to make people come for their cause, you know. It wasn't the moment in which I was there, so I haven't met Nadal, but yeah, that's something they can do, and I'm sure US does it as well, and I'm sure France does it as well. It's like just you have to use your tools to make people get the message you want to give them. Actually, diplomacy comes from Greece, from diplos, and in ancient Greek, diplos means message.
Hmm.
So your job as a diplomat is to bring the message they sent you to communicate. So you can use any tool, even having Rafael Nadal in your embassy, to transmit the message you're there for, you know.
Yeah, that's a, I mean, basic, like they got to do something to bring them in, and that's like kind of like marketing 101 almost, of, you know, getting people's interest with somebody that they already like. Makes total sense. So I'm guessing that they wouldn't actually pay them, right? Is kind of like volunteer. Is it like case by case of like
uh,
what star demands to attend?
uh, let's say it's very very rare, very bizarre, but it can happen that you pay someone to attend to your embassy, but
It's fair.
it's very exceptional.
And then
You're
they're
right.
kind of like a dick. It's like, well, why do you have to be paid to like serve your
Yeah,
country?
yeah,
Like
yeah,
just
no,
to
but
attend this open bar. It's open bar, man.
no, but
There's prosciutto.
yeah, exactly. But no, most of the time people who come, They do it for patriotic purposes. Like, for example, Rafael Nadal, he loves Spain, he loves the country. He's there in New York, so he take some time from his trip to New York to attend at the embassy. Or, as I told you, Amal Clooney, they really believe in this cause, and they want to spend time to raise the awareness, or get some money donations for this cause. But yeah, no,
So then if you are trying to raise money for your own cause, did I hear you correctly earlier in that you could reach out to the embassy, and if you have a compelling cause, could they kind of rally behind it and work with you as a philanthropist to kind of get that going?
yeah. Well, the just to make it clear, the money we collect is not in the benefit of the country; it's in the benefit of the project that
Right.
you fight for. And most of the time, those projects are directly managed by the UN or the agencies like UNICEF, UN Women, UNDP. Just because they don't have the budget to fund this project, then they organize those events of philanthropic receptions, all this stuff. What a country can make, can help, is to use his network, his diplomatic network, to make this issue uh, advocated at the level of diplomats. Because if you are, I don't know, you are Tyler, and you want, give me a cause you would like to fight for.
Renewable energy.
Okay,
So
so
bringing energy to yeah, those that don't have energy.
okay, so if you Tyler, and send an email to the 193 countries saying, "Hello, I'm Tyler. I really care about renewable energy and give access to everyone to on energy. I'm doing fundraising. Come to this event." They won't reply to you. They're going to say, "Who's this Tyler?" or "Who's this NGO?" But if you, as an NGO, you do this advocacy work with one embassy and ask them to help you to raise the awareness within the decision makers at the UN, that this cause is very important and that we need to fund, to give some funds to this cause, then this country that is willing to help you will use his own contacts, his own network, to say, "Hello, I'm I don't know. Let's say I'm Tunisia. I really care about this cause that is promoted by the Tyler Luque Association Foundation, and to get some more awareness, more funds for this cause. We, Tunisia, organize this event, and we invite you to this event, so you can come and uh, learn more about it, or even help about it." So it's just about the formal thing.
Mm.
Also, they can give some budget for the reception, like they give you the place, the food, the drinks. That's how they help you.
Man, that's really cool. So that's totally possible that the average Joe has their NGO and their cause, and they just say, hey, this directly relates to the people of your country. So if I'm trying to bring renewable energy to Ghana or some town in Ghana, then maybe I would collaborate with them
Hmm.
and the US Embassy for doing that fundraising over here. That's totally possible. People do that.
Yeah, yeah. I
Wow.
have I have to tell you that most of them are known organizations, like I don't know, Doctors Without Borders, Amnesty International, or it can be foundations that are um, helped by famous people like Leonardo DiCaprio or Stevie Wonder, or this kind of
And the
people.
Clooney's, yeah.
Yeah. So if you have an important cause, you need to have an advocacy strategy. So either get the support of someone who's famous to help you, or get the support of one embassy. And it's a job. Like, you have people specialized in that, and they implement this advocacy strategy to reach their objective.
All right, Becem, I got a question for you.
Tell me.
Because I mean, one thing I love about you is like you're just like pure at heart. Like you're got that childlike um perspective of just, loving life and kind of like I don't know, that's one of my favorite qualities in people is if they have a childlike attribute, childlike wonder and just like zest for life. And so
Mm.
that's just a little compliment I'll throw your direction. But
Thanks.
so you as a kid, take me back to you as a kid.
Mhm.
Were you always in line with this, like that you were really excited about multilateral diplomacy? Like when did that start? Were you on the playground, like settling arguments and be like, all right, this person really needs this for you to, for that you play? It's like then you could play or your turn next. Like what were you like as a kid?
um, yeah, well, first, to what you said, I really believe that you need this part of your personality to think as a kid to be happy in life. And I think that the day I will stop thinking as a kid on what I like, on what I want to be happy, I think like some part of me will be dead, and I don't want to reach this day. Of course, you need to be responsible as an adult, reduce the risk of life and everything. But when you think on what you really want to do, to enjoy your holidays or to enjoy your weekend, you need some time to think as a kid, and that's something I want to keep in my personality. I hope I will be able to keep. But during my childhood, um, uh, just to give you an idea about the background, my father is himself a lawyer, you know, and like he really has uh, this spirit of like being the guy who give you argument to convince you or tries to explain you things. And I think I got that from my father. um, I'm not sure that at 8 or 7 I was already talking about multilateral diplomacy. uh, that's something I discovered later. But yeah, when you say about like trying to resolve conflicts between two friends or something, yeah, I had some of that. Yeah, maybe I wasn't aware that it was diplomacy already at that moment, but um, I really try to be friendly with as much people as possible. So of course there is some exceptions. Like anyone, I'm not perfect. Like sometimes I'm not friend with someone just because like that. But there is something I can't explain why we're not friends, and there's nothing you can do about it. I don't want to have conflict with this person, but I already know that we won't be friends. I'm sorry. That's human, you know. Um, but yeah, like in my group of friends from the when I was teenager or when I was child, I always try like to make things peacefully, and just if we have to choose between two choices, some if possible, I try to find the third choice that make everybody satisfied. Yeah, uh, yeah, I think it's something of from my personality. Yeah.
So it seems like all the work that you've done thus far really suited you. You weren't too lost. Like a lot of kids just starting college, for example. They're like, oh, what do I want to major in? I don't know.
Mm.
And it's something we all have to find out is what job really fits us. So you knew pretty early, like this job came to you, or is it kind
No,
of like
no,
overlap with the
about
lawyer? Is
diplomacy concretely. No, no. When I graduated from high school, I wanted to become an attorney, because I started to study law first. And yeah, as I told you, my father is a lawyer, and like so you know how it is when your father has one profession, and you sometimes he asks you for help for his job, so you already know more or less about this job.
Mm.
And then like it can happen that you want to do the same job. So that was my starting point with the legal studies. um, but then I by studying law, I learned about international law. and then international relations. And yeah, it suited me, as you say. That was something that I was interested in without doing efforts. And I was really motivated to read more about this topic, to do research about this topic, to get more culture for myself. Like, for when you do something because the professor asked you to do it. So it can happen on some topics, but with international relations, it came to me very interesting without any effort. So that's why I went further in this. And as well, when I was at the university, I did the Model United Nations. So it's kind of a simulation of United Nations, and every student is a diplomat for 2 or 3 days, and like they tell you, okay, you represent Netherlands, you represent Tanzania, you represent Brazil. Find an agreement, you know, about this topic, and that's
Yeah.
where you learn to negotiate. You learn to get the knowledge you need about this topic, so you can first define your objective as a country, as a delegation, but as well to know what are the objectives of the other countries, because a good negotiator has to know the background of the other part, to know where is the area in which you can find a balanced agreement, because you need to be two, or you need to be a group to agree on a topic. um, so
Yeah. That
yeah.
is one really, really powerful life lesson, right? Is to make people come together in agreement. Like, wow, that's maybe the strongest
Mm.
skill that you could really ask for. What other skills or life lessons did you learn from traveling or the UN, all this diplomatic efforts other than, teamwork?
Yeah,
what are some other life lessons that you could impart to us?
yeah, I would start by traveling. I would say it makes you think about who you are and what is your culture about, because when you are always in the same city, the same country, you grow up in an environment in which what you live, the way of living, is very normal because everyone is like that. So you don't even question why we do this, or why we eat this, or why people meet together by this, by those traditions. It's so obvious because you don't know anything else. And by traveling, I think it made me think about my background, and identify what are the good things and what are the things I should change or try to change. Uh, when I say it's about myself, I'm not here to teach other Tunisians about how life should be and how to change their culture, but about myself. Yeah, there is things that I discovered that made me think about myself and made me wish to become a better person. And also, as a Tunisian, I teach things to my friends in Spain, France, or in the US, about things we do in Tunisia that I think is good, and we should share with them. I don't know. That's what traveling gave me most, I think. Um, we think about things that were obvious to me that are not that much.
So new perspectives is one of the
Yeah,
best things. I've found that too in traveling, and the rewards are just immeasurable. Like you become a much better version of yourself because
exactly.
you're not because you were taking things for granted before you traveled. Like you're saying, those traditions and things, they become so normal that you don't really even think about them or
Mm.
why we do it or whatever. Yeah, that's really good. So uh, what would you tell the people in Spain or about Tunisia that are some things that other people would like to bring into their lives? Or, I mean, I'm interested to know about Tunisia.
Mm.
I just know that it's east of Italy, past what is that, the Arabian Sea?
No, it's on the Mediterranean Sea,
Oh, it's on the Mediterranean.
and it's in the southwest of Italy. So the Mediterranean Sea, it's between Europe and Africa. So
Yeah.
Tunisia is on the African part, and the southern part of Mediterranean. What I really like about the Mediterranean culture, about before we talk about Tunisia, because those are elements that are very common to many Mediterranean countries. If you go to Tunisia, if you go to Greece, if you go to Italy, to Spain, you will find those common points. Is first the food, the food that I consider that is, I know it's not objective at all, but for me the best food in the world is in the Mediterranean countries. Um,
I
and
love that you start with food first, because for me that's the most important.
yeah, I think it's very important in a culture. If you want to know more about this culture, you have to start by the food, I think.
Yes, I love that. You get to see the culture in the food so much.
Yeah,
One of the best examples, real quick, because I just love this
no problem.
example, is Japanese food, and how, like sushi, what's the utensil? Well, with your hands or two sticks.
Yeah,
And then the food is all wrapped up in a tiny circle, and it's
very
got
organized, very
rice,
packed.
vegetables,
Yeah,
protein, a fish, and
it,
love
it
it. So
it's
what do you like?
delicious. Of course, it's delicious. But it tells so much about Japanese culture. How Japanese first take care. Sorry, um, matter a lot about healthy food first. They are very organized, so they don't want a big plate with salsa and juicy things. No, they want things that are packed, very organized. Of course, sushi is not the only food in Japan, but sushi shows you that, you know.
Mhm.
Also, sushi is a very, very old tradition, and it shows you that it shows you how tradition is important in Japan, and how people keep transmitting this tradition from generation to another, you know. And it's not the case in all cultures around the world. So you're right. When you go to a new culture, a new country, start by the food. It's a very good starting point.
All
uh,
right, we got that covered. But
so yeah, Mediterranean culture is that it's a lot of seafood, a lot of fish, a lot of olive oil. In Tunisia, we have a lot of olive trees, but you go to Spain and Greece, it's the same. What was actually sad when I've been to the US and I bought olive oil. Next time you go to supermarket, you can try to see that on the package. They tell you that the olive oil you have in this bottle is 20% from the US, 15% from Spain, 12% from Greece, 2% from Chile. It's like mixed. And I said, why? Why do mixed? And like when I asked some friends from the US, they told me it's just because the taste of olive oil in the US is very neutral. So they try to make the perfect mix of olive oil to don't have a too strange taste for the US consumers.
hmm.
For me, it's a disgrace, but I can understand the logic, you know.
Yeah,
Because
it's a good description. But so you're telling me that like you shouldn't mix like Merlot with Pinot Noir wine, and it's not a good idea?
no, 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 no. Sorry. Don't start doing the American. You know that it's not a good idea. Stop
Wait,
being
can we just make
cliche.
a hamburger out of it? Can we
Stop with the cliches.
all right, I'll stop insulting everybody around the world.
Yeah. So yeah. So also wine actually, it's something that is you find in many Mediterranean countries. Um, so that's something I like. The lifestyle you have is actually very healthy. The tomatoes, the all the vegetables you find there are just delicious. Always about as well about the people. Um, in the Mediterranean countries, people are very spontaneous, which is something I like. Because, for example, when I visited Denmark, it's a like very northern culture, and people there are very cold. You know?
Well, it's a lot colder up there temperature, you know.
Yeah,
They don't see the sun as much.
yeah, that's true. But what I found sad is that I only seen people from Denmark being funny when they were drunk. And like, why do you need to be drunk to be funny? Like to be welcoming with people you don't know on the street. Because I was there one day when it was the European Cup of soccer, of football, and Denmark won. So everybody was celebrating in the street, and they were all drunk. And then, like I said, okay, so they are able to be funny. But for example, in Mediterranean countries, even if you have a lot of wine, you don't need to be drunk to be nice and welcoming and funny. Um, Actually, in some countries, they are Muslim, and not a lot of not. It's not very common for people to drink. In Tunisia, you have a part of the population who drinks, but it's not common. And people are very welcoming. You talk to them in the street, asking for the route, for example, and like they will help you very easily. Also, when you see about Mediterranean families, family is important. You need like to really be to care about your brother, about your father, about your mother. If your father or your mother is old, most of the time you don't send them to the retirement house. You bring them to your place and they live with you. And it's very common. While when I see in European countries, people who prefer to put the parents in the retirement house, I see it as a sad thing. I don't say, "Oh, shame on you," because I know that it's not easy, especially in Paris. You have to work a lot. You're out of time and everything. And maybe it's the less worst solution, because you know that at the retirement house they will take care of him. They will have a nurse, a doctor, or anything he needs. But that's something you cannot do in a Mediterranean country. It's like a shame when you do that. So that's what I would say about Mediterranean culture. But then about Tunisia, I can tell you many things. I know that in the US, you know a lot about the fight between Carthago and Roma in the history, in the early history, and how Carthago was ruling the part of the Mediterranean and tried to fight against the Romanian Empire, and to rule all the Mediterranean. Well, Carthago was founded in Tunisia. So if you visit Tunisia, you can visit Carthago. You still have some antiquities that you can visit in Tunisia. Tunisia was also the place in which you had a lot of civilization that went through. You had the Berberian, you had the Romanian, the Carthago Empire. You had the Christians, you had the Muslims, you had France that colonized us, you had Italians that tried to colonize us, which makes Tunisia a mix of many cultures. And that's why we are a country that is very, I would not say open to the world, but connected to the world, because of these different backgrounds we have. Yeah. But don't
Yeah,
get me started about Tunisia, because when you ask me about that, I'm too long, I think.
no, it's good. I mean, it's anything that's new, and especially talking about like different cultures and ways of life. I think we're all kind of yearning for that right now. With COVID not being able to travel, it's
Yeah.
good to hear about it. You paint a really good picture about it. I mean, I'm imagining the food, the Mediterranean breeze, all this really nice lifestyle.
Yeah.
Um,
Of course, we have problems in Tunisia. It's not a perfect country, and we have things to improve. But now I'm currently in Paris, out of Tunisia, because of COVID. I wasn't able to go for 1 year now. So that's the nostalgia speaking.
yeah, nostalgia is a interesting thing. It's a good feeling. It's like that almost masochistic, but really subtle. It's just like, that kind of hurts, but feels so good. Just like you want to keep talking about it. So talking about that, you remember the first time we met
Yeah, in Lugo.
in Lugo, Spain,
Yeah,
in
in Spain,
region
Galicia.
of Galicia.
Yeah, yeah, I remember, of course. And actually, I don't know if Camille follows you in this podcast, but my greetings to Camille,
Yeah, well,
and
sure to send it to
and
her.
to your brother as well,
Yeah.
because they were roommates, I think.
Yeah, they're my brother and your friend Camille. They were roommates in this small town that just kicks ass when it comes to tapas. That town and
That's
tapas really
incredible. It's
nailed it.
tapas included. That's
Yeah.
incredible. Yeah, keep going, keep going.
Yeah, and they so they got history with you see a lot of the Roman trademark, their arches. They got the old wall they call the muro. I think they call it the muro, or maybe
Yeah.
there's muralla. I forget. It's been so long, but
Mm.
that was so fun staying there because you were there as well as Vincent,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I went to visit, and I didn't know that y'all were visiting. And
Mm.
next thing you know, we're all skipping around bar to bar doing the tapeo.
Yeah. So yeah, just
Tapeando.
to let people understand what was so great about the tapas thing is that in Lugo, apparently in all Galicia, when you go to any bar, if you take one drink, they offer you always one tapa with this drink. But like it's not a little thing. It's like tapa is kind of a plate or sandwich or something. So sometimes you don't even have to order food. You just take 2 or 3 drinks and you're full. So that's incredible. And like for Camille and your brother that were living there, like they started to get it as a normal thing. But for us, the guests, for Vincent, for you, for me, it was like, what? Like it's like the same feeling as people who discovered oil in in the 20th century. It's like why we didn't know about it before,
Yeah, when the food came and our drinks, we were dancing like prospectors. Like, oh, we found oil. This is unbelievable.
Exactly.
Because, well, I was living in A Coruña, which is only like maybe an hour and a half away from Lugo, but we didn't have quite as good a tapas. So
Okay.
Galicia has some places like Santiago de la Compostela. They have
Mm.
really good tapas as well, really
Yeah.
big plates. But yeah, Lugo is another one that's just top notch where they would even ask you, okay, which tapa do you want? We have calamares, we have, bocadillo, and you get a
Yeah.
sandwich. You get a whole sandwich with like a €1 is like $1 or
Yeah.
something. A drink. Yeah, that was amazing. But so you and Vincent were living in Barcelona at the time, right?
Yeah. Exactly. But actually, Camille, we met her in Barcelona as well.
Mm.
So the thing is that Camille came to Barcelona for only 1 year exchange. I was there for 2, and then I stayed more because I did my master degree. But
And you loved Barcelona in Spain, obviously.
exactly, I loved Barcelona. Yeah, I was supposed to stay only 2 years, but then they told me that first I can keep studying in Spain. Second, the universities in Barcelona are great. I enjoyed the lifestyle in Barcelona, and uh, I felt very good in the city. So I said, okay, why not? I keep in Barcelona and keep enjoying the lifestyle there. So yeah, so it was actually my 3rd year in Spain. So you were saying that you were impressed by my Spanish. It's because it was my 3rd year. When I arrived on my 1st year, I was like with academic Spanish, and I wasn't that good, but yeah, I had the opportunity to improve it. So yeah, and we came with Vincent, and it was just great. And I don't know, sometimes when you go to visit a friend and he has roommates, sometimes the roommate just say hi and he keeps doing his life. But you and your brother were there. I think his girlfriend was there as well. I don't know if they are still together.
No, Cody's back in the United States now.
Okay, okay. Yeah, so but like the connection was very good because I think also Camille was very friend with Cody as well. And
Camille's not so different from you and Vincent. It's like, how can you not get along with this person? So kind and just like, and open to do anything. Like, let's go explore the town. Let's, let's party or let's chill. Let's, let's just hang out. So really easy to get along with. How did you meet Vincent?
The same, like, so I met Vincent and Camille the same way. We were together on the. It was my first year in Barcelona, and it was the same for Camille. Not Vincent, because Vincent he is Spanish, so it wasn't his first year. But he was living on the campus, and we were just neighbors. And just from one party to another, we made a group of friends. And Vincent and Camille were part of this group of friends. Actually, when you came to Barcelona, you met Augusto, you met Alejandro, you met Tessie, I think, no?
Were they? Yeah, because the first time we met was in Lugo in Galicia, but then the second time I went to Barcelona and I stayed in Vincent's apartment.
Exactly.
Is that his roommates you're talking about?
Exactly, his roommates. We met all of them on the campus, but then we decided like to move to the city center. So they took this apartment to live together, and I found an apartment by my side. Yeah.
You were pretty close to there, or at least you came and visited, and we got to hang out again when I went to Barcelona.
Yeah, it's the city center. The city center of Barcelona is very well connected from one district to another. It's very easy to move.
Yeah, that was a really fun trip. That was Semana Santa, which is Easter over here, Holy Week. And what was the order of my trip? Because those are the big weeks off, so you try and do a lot of things. I went to Barcelona and then Morocco. That might have.
Okay.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. But do you remember the third time that
of course,
I went to Barcelona?
With your father and your uncle, your brother Bryce, and Cody?
Yeah, the whole family. Well, the guy.
And we went to the beach together, and you were surprised of the Pakistani beer seller. You remember?
Yeah, because he's like they're all selling mojitos, they're all selling beer, whatever, and they just bother the heck out of you. You're just trying to enjoy the beach, and they always come up, hey, you need beer, and they click, 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 click. And the first time when you're visiting, you're like, oh, this is pretty cool. Someone comes and gives you a beer, all right. But then when they just bombard you with this, it's just like this guy and that guy. That's kind of annoying. But yeah, the funniest thing about the guy that we actually bought some drinks from is might have been €4 total with whatever we bought. And we had a 5. Gave him the 5. He's like, do you have change? And he's like thinking, do I have change? And he's like, yeah. Takes off his shoe.
No, before, I don't remember. Before he said, I don't have change. So Cody, your brother, like, he knows this practice, so he told me, okay, take back the 4 beers and give me the €5.
Because he wanted us to just say, don't worry about it.
Yeah, or just okay, give me a 5th beer, just to sell more. Right. But like when Cody told him that, he said, so he did just keep going.
Yeah, so he's like, yes, I do have change. Takes off his shoe, takes off his sock, and that's where he has change. So we're just like, okay, thanks. Cheers, I guess. Yeah, and so that was such a good trip. Later on, my other brother, Bryce, the younger one, he would get us all playing hacky sack all the time. That little bean bag. I actually have one.
Oh, great.
And,
but so like he learned how to play with that in Barcelona?
No, it's kind of a pastime. We've had that since growing up. You just try and kick it as kids. It's not too many people are that good at it, but man, it's so much fun to just bust it out. If you got like 20 minutes to wait for the metro or the bus, or you're just, for whatever reason, you could play anywhere, and you're just like, wait, what is that? And you watch us playing, and then we're just like, yeah, jump in, and you just jumped right in, just having a blast. And my dad and uncle, they still talk about that. They just love seeing you join in with that game.
Nice. Yeah, but it was funny, and he looked to be good at that and having fun. So just like, can I join? And he said yes. So,
So we taught you hacky sack,
yeah.
and then you taught us something that was so revolutionary because
Yeah.
we're from New Orleans and we love cooking. We love food. And
Yeah.
one secret about good food is it has garlic and onions. Like if you're cooking with that, it's gonna be good.
It's guaranteed.
Yeah, so garlic is like a holy thing for us. We don't take garlic lightly. And but you taught us something new with garlic. And
Yeah.
what is this? Because it has some cultural significance, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, it's a Catalan tradition. So Barcelona is the capital of Catalonia. It's the region of Spain. Some people will tell you that it's a country because it should be independent. Let's not enter in this political debate. But
That's a lot of other stuff, yeah.
yeah, but yeah, in Catalonia they call it pa tomàquet, which is bread with tomato. So you just take a slice of bread, you toast it, and then you put you put garlic on the toasted bread. Then you put tomato, like originally like you rate, and how to say,
You rub.
you rub, thank you, you rub garlic and tomato, and then you just add a little bit of olive oil. I told you olive oil is important.
Oh yeah.
A little of salt, and that's it. So you can either eat it like that, as a toasted bread with tomato and garlic, or you can use it as a base of doing of another sophisticated toasted bread.
Go on.
So you can put on it cheese, you can put on it bacon, or jamon in Spanish. You can put on it anything, and yeah, it's just delicious. Very simple, healthy, and delicious. Yeah.
But the biggest kicker for us was that you take a whole garlic, or you cut a toe of garlic in half, and you rub it on toasted bread. And if you look back at the garlic, you're just like, doesn't look like much happened. You know, you look back at the bread and it doesn't look like much happened. You don't see much garlic there.
No,
but just rubbing that raw garlic on the bread just completely implants that garlic taste on there, and it blew our minds. Like,
yeah.
Becem, who are you? Who is this?
Well, I like to be considered as a genius, even if I have nothing to see with that. Like, it's Catalan tradition, not me, you know. But I like this moment as well, you know.
Yeah, so it's goes without saying that you were always welcome in our home,
Thank
and
you.
you actually did. You came
Yeah,
by,
exactly.
and you stayed with us for in New Orleans.
Yeah. You remember it was actually after my internship in New York. I spent 1 year in New York, but I didn't really had time to explore the U.S. So like, of course, I had time to visit Washington D.C., Philadelphia, Boston, because it was close by bus. But I was after 9 months in New York. I said, hey, I don't know many cities of the US, so I just decided to take 1 month to do a tour. So I visited first Miami. Well, it was good. Miami is kind of a place that is touristic, but it's more like to relax, because after a lot of work in New York, being in Miami, just in a hotel with the beach, and of course there is so many places to visit, like the Everglades, like the Hollywood. No, not Hollywood. There's a neighborhood where there is a lot of
Graffiti, the Wynwood.
Wynwood. Thank you.
Yeah.
The Wynwood, Little Havana, all those places are great to visit. But I have to admit that Miami for me was more to chill, you know, to chill after an intense internship in New York. And also I was alone in Miami, so it wasn't the same as in New Orleans, because when I came to New Orleans, it was first to come to see you and your family. Of course, New Orleans is great, but the experience was even better. And like I was very well received by you and your family, and I'm still grateful to you for that. And as I told you about Japan, you know, when you start with the food, with the New Orleans, I started with the food, and it is delicious. And in the food of New Orleans, you see many aspects of the city. First, the influence of the Spanish culture and the French culture, like the boudin, for example. Do you remember? Is it the way we have to pronounce it? The boudin?
Well, we pronounce it a little bit more like Cajun French, I guess, like boudin.
Boudin.
So yeah, the boudin. Was that at that brunch place, that breakfast place where you got the boudin omelet?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. With the kind of paste that is not rice, is something. It's something white. I don't remember. It's kind of uh, it's something white, but it's not rice. It's something similar to
Oh, grits. Yeah, you
grits.
had shrimp and grits.
Exactly, shrimp and grits.
That's a classic, shrimp and grits. Yeah.
Yeah, but you see, that's New Orleans. When you see that, you understand that this city is with this past of French and Spanish colony. You see this diversity of civilization meeting in New Orleans. The shrimps has a very important issue, a very important place in the food of Louisiana or New Orleans. And people are creative. That's how you see a lot of jazzman people. You have Bourbon Street that is incredible.
Yeah, we went there.
Yeah, the French street, Frenchman Street, with all
Frenchman
the jazz
Street.
clubs. That's New Orleans. That's creativity. That's history. That's I really love. I think maybe it's the city I enjoyed the most to visit. And I hope I will be able to come back to New Orleans to visit you again and to enjoy the city. There is the beignet as well, no?
Yeah, did we have the beignets? Did we go
Yeah,
get
of
that?
course, in Café du
Good,
Monde.
good, good, good.
In Café du
Cafe du
Monde.
Monde. That's
Yeah,
right.
very beautiful place. And you will see that the cafes, the coffee shops in in Paris and the bars have are similar to the style of Café du Monde. You remember how? Well, you remember, of course, you know. But I remember how the waiters were suited. It's the French way, French traditional way for waiters to be suited. You know, I love it. I love it. Again on New Orleans. Don't get me started because I have so much to say. It was after the elections of Donald Trump. I was living in New York, and I know that people from New York are very specific. And I know that in Louisiana, Donald Trump came first, and he won the great electors. Clearly, not by racism that he voted for Donald Trump, because I'm Arably, he's not xenophobic, he's not racist, but still he voted for someone as Donald Trump, and I really tried to understand why he did that. And he explained me that he was not trusting Hillary Clinton and the Democrats. And like it made me think that really uh, what Americans did on 2016, and a lot of them did in 2020 actually, was kind of deny to the classical politicians to keep in office. That was the idea, I think. And some of them regretted that and voted for changed their vote for Democrats and Joe Biden. But in 2016, that was that. It was we don't trust someone like Hillary Clinton. We don't trust the people like Democrats. And I think they get the lecture at that moment. The Democratic Party, because when we see the ones that took part to the primary elections, it's a lot of them were different to the profile of Hillary Clinton, and tried to show more inclusiveness, tried to fight more for the economic issues that no more people are facing, and maybe this crisis, because with Donald Trump in office, it was a crisis for the Democrat Party. This crisis helped them to improve and come back to what matters most, which is the preoccupations of the citizens, the normal citizens. It helped me to understand better what happened in the US in 2016.
Yeah, I mean, it was the main thing was that people were tired of the same old, same old. So although a lot of people didn't agree with what Trump was saying or saying he would do, he was still
An alternative.
not, yeah, he was an alternative from everybody. And that was really attractive because Hillary was the classic politician,
The
changing,
establishment.
yeah, the establishment. Just seems like a pawn from whoever is the wealthiest telling the government and other big institutions, you know, what to do. She seemed like completely willing to do whatever somebody else wanted her to do. And you could look through the history to see her flip-flop on different issues. So it just doesn't make sense for me to pick that person. So, I mean, I was in the same shoes. I was in the same belief. I didn't vote for Trump either time, but that's just because
you understand why people
I didn't vote for the Democrats either time either, because I thought they were both, it's a turd sandwich versus a douchebag. You know, that's what South Park nailed it on the head. It's just like, you have these two options. One is indigestible and the other one is insoportable. Like you can't stand this thing. And so I actually just voted for the independent party the first time, I'm just hoping that they get more funding so they could become a legitimate contender in the future. So my vote was a desperate one, and it was neither of those two evils. And then, you know, most recently, similar story. I didn't vote for either of them because I think Biden's quite similar to Hillary. You know, he's flip-flopped in the past, he's lied in the past, and right now he doesn't even seem coherent. So it's like, I don't feel good voting for him, although I am really happy with a lot of the things that he's started, especially with climate change and just moving the planet to a place to heal. And his message of healing is so important. So I do like what he's done so far, but I mean, there's just so many shortcomings and failings of the government and the political system, because you were right. All the primary in the primaries, you had all kinds of different candidates, and they were really good spectrum to choose from. So
they were
really good
options. Representative of the real people of the U.S.
Yeah, but then what happens again is they did another political move, and all of them pulled out right before Super Tuesday, except for Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, and Joe Biden. And the reason being so that they could all support who they want to win, which was Biden. They wanted him to win, and Bernie was the clear favorite until that happened. And they just didn't want Bernie to win. And that makes me lose a lot of faith in just the system. It's just like clearly rigged to help certain people. So like Trump would be like, oh, it's a rigged system, fake news. But that's hurting everybody. It's not just hurting him. It's not just hurting Republicans. It's also hurting the Democrats, you know, the true voice, or at least the leader of the votes at the time was looking to be Bernie Sanders, and then they pulled the rug out from under him. And the whole, this whole thing is running throughout every aspect, you know, like the Black Lives Matter movement is equal opportunity for everybody. That should be a revolution for white people and Black people.
Of course.
And, you know, everybody, that's a revolution for everybody, because we're so far from equality. You know, just take color out the picture. The disparity of wealth, like the poor people, they don't have the resources with good intention from the wealthy that know what could help. They're withholding a lot of the things that can help, like healthcare, you know, the cost of all that. So there's just issue after issue.
The student loans. as well.
Yeah.
Mm.
But I really I think so. Going back to your point about how interesting it was for you and your outside perspective to hear about that election,
Mm.
even those people that voted for Trump in 2016 and then they regretted it and switched to the other one, I still think that was necessary to happen to shake things up.
Yeah.
You know, so that they know, like now the Democrats have changed their strategy. It's like, well, I guess we got to listen to them more now, or
Mm.
we gotta try and help them more now. So all in all, you know, things to change drastically, you have to have something like this. You know,
Maybe
you wish it wouldn't be so
you need
harmful.
a crisis to make to think what is important, what you project you want to defend at the end. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, so I'm sure it's getting pretty late over there in Paris. What time is it right now?
It's at almost 11 p.m.
Oh man, I'm sure you got some arguments to settle tomorrow and just different issues, you know, to bring your delegate skills to every interaction and stuff.
Oh,
So I'll
no,
go, but
it's okay. Like now, I work remotely, so I don't need to wake up so early because I need transportation time, commute time. Now I just wake up, take the breakfast, open the computer, and I start working. So I can sleep more now.
okay, good. So you only have to put on a shirt, you know.
Uh,
You don't have to get fully dressed.
yeah. Just the shirt by the top, like look professional, and that's all. Then
Yeah.
they don't see the the lower part.
Cool. Well, I love asking this question and seeing what people bring about life hacks. So, like
Mm.
a life hack is something that really interests me because I come across them every now and then. It's something that just makes life a lot easier. So, you know, there's like travel, or I think the first time I saw the term was point hacking, where
Mhm.
if you're on top of your credit, you could manipulate the bonuses of credit cards to give you free flights, free hotels, and you know bonus money for whatever without actually paying anything extra.
Well,
So that's hack.
that's a very US thing. Unfortunately, we don't
Right,
have that in Europe.
dude. That's mind blowing. So there's no credit in Europe, right? You don't have a credit score in Europe.
No, well, we have credit cards, but we don't get any benefit by using this credit card. You know,
Hmm.
um, because we have a system that is very regulated by the law. While in the US, it's open competition between bank companies. So in the US, all the bank companies do that to attract customers. While in France, as is already very regulated, the bank companies can do any promotion, anything they want, just to get more customers. You know. So sometimes we have airline companies that tell you, take our credit card, and by using this credit card, you get points to get take tickets on our company for free. But in fact, when you read the small lines of the condition in the contract, you get nothing. You just pay for.
What?
Yeah, because I'm a lawyer, so I go check those small lines in the contract.
Good. We need somebody to do that.
Yeah, and it's not that interesting, so that's why I never subscribe to that. But yeah, I know that in the US, with your credit card, you can get this kind of benefits. It's great.
Yeah, so you could manipulate that system to actually get a bunch of free stuff. So that's point hacking. See another life hack example, or do you have any life hacks? I'll try and think of another
Well,
example.
one of the skills I got with the diplomacy life is how to reduce the effect of hangover. I don't know if it's interesting to tell to the
Oh
people
yeah,
listening.
that's I think that's very valuable information. How do
Yeah.
you get rid
Well,
of a hang?
so I don't know if you remember, I told you like some nights I had to go to maybe three reception in the same night and still wake
Poor
up
Bess.
early.
I'm
Poor
so
Becem,
sorry you
yeah.
had to do that.
What a hard life, right? And like to be nice to people, not because of me, but just to be nice to people. When I go to a reception, I have to drink. Otherwise they would take it as an offense, you know.
Yeah, you got to be
So
respectful.
exactly, but in fact, you have to understand that what makes you hungover is that alcohol absorbs while you're sleeping. Alcohol absorbs a high quantity of water in your body. So that's why when you wake up next morning, you're like, oh, I'm so tired. Oh, I need to drink water and everything. So my life hack is when you drink a lot and you need to wake up early next morning, is to take a high quantity of water just before sleeping. Like maybe you take a 1 liter bottle, you drink it all the way, and you go to sleep directly, because you give the additional water that your body will need to absorb alcohol. And by this way, it's not completely efficient, but it reduces the effect of hangover. And if the next morning you need to wake up early to take your plane, to take your flight, or to go to an important meeting, you will wake up.
Man, the lessons learned in diplomacy.
uh, yeah, yeah. Sometimes, yeah, you need to play with your body.
I did have the vision earlier where you said, they'll have a reception, one of those parties to raise funds or to get some message out there. You have somebody at the party, and hey, can I get you a drink as you want to talk to them about a plan, and they finish or they're low on their drink, and they're like, yeah, but I don't know if we're in the position to support that right now. Oh, let me get you some more beverage there. Diplomacy.
Well, actually, one of the skills of diplomacy is, I don't want to give an image of alcoholic profession, but is to know how to deal with alcohol, um, because it's not easy for everyone to keep your mouth shut while being drunk. And
Yes.
because diplomats with beginners, they know very easily how to make you drink, to make you speak more while you're not supposed to speak. So I don't do that myself, but I learned how myself to be strong enough either to stop drinking when I see that I'm crossing the line and I will behaving bad after one more drink, or even to keep drinking, but keep straight and controlling myself as much as possible. But yeah, but actually, this is one of the methods of negotiations, to make the person happy first, to make him sign the deal. So I don't like this method, because when I want to get someone convinced, I want it to be convinced for the good reasons, not because I trap him or something. Um,
Mhm.
but it's something that this kind of trap, they can um, do it to you, so you have to be resilient for that.
Yeah. It feels a lot better to do it, without any substance influencing the negotiation. But then after the negotiations are done, then celebrate,
Yeah,
cheers and
exactly.
all.
Then you can celebrate, and then it's okay. Like we're just like buddies, and like we end the job, send the work to the capital, let them read our agreement, and now come with me. We have a beer to drink together. Then it's good. And actually, I was talking about, for example, the difficulties to negotiate with Russia on the conflict in Syria. But in fact, when you work with those people from Russia, like you spend time with them, and you see that they are more or less like you. Like sometimes they can even personally disagree with what their government asked them to do. But if you go through this person you have in front of you, you can find elements to become friends with this guy. And actually, there was one Russian diplomat I remember. We became friends. Of course, we became friends talking about other issues than work. But yeah, so that's very important to bear in mind that in the UN, what you see from people during meetings is a play that they have to. It's a role they have to play.
Mhm.
Don't take it personally in both situations. If they are rude with you, they're not rude with your person. If they are very friendly with you, they are not friendly with your person. So it's because of the interest they are defending and the interest you are representing.
Man, so you have to really meet a person 2 times.
Well, it depends. Sometimes just after the meeting, you have lunch with this person.
Yeah, it's like, okay, now tell me who you really are. Let's talk about.
Yeah, but like you can talk about like sport. You can talk about his kids. You can talk about his holidays.
Yeah.
This is as well a type of diplomacy. You know, the only country I wasn't able to do that with with them was the diplomats from North Korea. Because diplomats from North Korea are not allowed to meet with other diplomats out of the formal meetings, and when they are in New York, they're always by 2 people. So if someone says something about his country, the other one is there to monitor him. Very sad. But I remember, for example, the ambassador of Venezuela. It's a very nice guy, very gentleman guy. Of course, he represents the government of Maduro. There is so many things you can think about Maduro and his policy, of course. But when you see this guy, it's impossible to not be friends with this guy. And what impressed me, because he's an ambassador, so um, ambassadors in the UN are like known by everyone, because when you see them so many day by day, you see them taking the floor and everything. So at the end, most of the ambassadors, you know them by their face. So those people meet a lot of people at the UN. And what impressed me with the ambassador of Venezuela is that he remembered me by name. And every time I go to greet him, like even if we met only 2 or 3 times before as in a meeting between Venezuela and Spain, he lies like, "Hey, Becem, how are you? It's been a while. Oh, thank you, ambassador. Like, I'm fine and everything." Like, this guy is a genius. He's a very good diplomat. And well, it's not enough for me to tell him yes to everything what he wants for me as a Spanish representative, but he has my respect, artist. And if I have the opportunity to spend a private moment with him, I'm sure that I would spend a great moment with him. We'll have
Yeah,
a great
that
moment.
remembering names goes a long way. That would be a good life hack too, of like how to remember people's names, like because that goes a long way.
Yeah. I don't know how to give an advice on that. Just try to remember something particular on this person that will make you remember of him. I can give this advice, but that's something personal about me.
No, we'll save that for whenever he visits the podcast.
Yeah, I'm sure if you invite him, he will probably say, why not?
I have no idea who you are. Sure.
No, but like for him, it could be the opportunity for him to talk about his country, Venezuela, the way he likes. So you could be a tool of propaganda for him.
Yeah.
So be aware
Hey,
of that,
that'd be
because it's
really
his job.
interesting.
It's his job. That's the least you can expect from him. But you, as a journalist or as a podcaster, let's say, your job will be like, even if he uses you for his propaganda, to get to know the person, to get to talk with him, and try to know what he likes, what are his hobbies, what are his motivations for diplomacy, etc., etc.
Right on. Well, you got anything else that you wanted to talk about, Besem? Any parting things?
Well, I don't know. I really like the conversation we had today. But I would say, yeah, the curiosity is the thing that should um, be in every person. Of course, every person has a different personality and everything, but what makes you improve yourself in life is curiosity. Could be curiosity about knowledge. For example, we were talking about softwares for broadcast and doing live broadcast, and I've seen that you were curious about it, and I'm sure that you will do some research and check some tutorials to improve your skills in that. It can be about persons, about other countries, about cultures. Be curious, because you will then know more about things or about people, and then you will enrich your person. You will enrich yourself, you know. So yeah, if I can give an advice to the persons that are listening to us, be curious in life.
Dude, I love that. And I couldn't agree with that more. That's one of the fundamental ingredients to a happy, interesting, and exciting life where you're just learning and growing.
Hmm.
And, you know, you're out of a routine that a lot of people, that's one of their things that really keep them back. So that's golden advice, curiosity.
Thanks.
Thanks so much, Becem.
Thank you,
Enlightening as
Tyler.
always, really fun. And
Yeah.
you're always welcome at my family's house, even if I'm not there, you know that. And it's
Thank you.
not only because of the garlic rub.
Oof.
But it does help. So you
Yeah.
get the front seat of the table.
Okay, but just in case, I will bring some garlic and tomato in my luggage, you know, just so to make sure that you let me in the house, you know.
Yeah, just like that 1 in a million chance that we don't have garlic.
No, but thank you very much, Tyler, and the same for you. I know how much you like France, so you are welcome to come to visit in Paris. And also, what I really hope is that one day you will make it to come to Tunisia, so I can make you discover my country, and I'm sure you will like it. There is so many specificities of this country that I think will fit with what you like during your trips. And
Hey, it's new, so I know I'll love it. Anything new, I'll love. And then of course, you know, see where you grew up, and to have you show me around, it'd be a real treat, man. Thank you so much.
No, it will be a pleasure. I hope we will have this moment together in Tunisia, and I hope as well that with this COVID, that this COVID situation will end very soon, so that we can travel again, and maybe discover another country, you and me. I know that you like Latin America. There is so many countries of Latin America I want to discover. Maybe we can do it together.
Man, I love that.
Mm.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tyler.
All right. Thank you, Besem. Let's talk soon.
Yeah, see you.